Welcome to Chai with Molly, a show where we celebrate diversity the Canadian way. I'm your host, and I want to wish you, from all of us here at Chai with Molly, a very happy new year. I trust you had a good time with your friends and family, and we have an amazing show in store for you, so stay with us. We have in our studio a mortgage specialist who is going to help us understand the importance of having someone like him in your corner when you are buying a home, and also give us some insights on mortgages, what types of mortgages we have, and what is the right kind of mortgage for each individual. And so let's just talk to our expert. So David Grossman.
How are you, Molly?
Wonderful. And you've been a mortgage specialist or a mortgage broker for how long?
About 10 years now.
Okay, so you definitely know everything there is to be known about mortgages.
Well, there's always something new coming up that you never expect. But I've arranged quite a few mortgages, yeah.
Okay, so before we get into mortgages, let's just talk about why is it important for someone who is contemplating purchasing a property to have someone like you in their corner?
Well, first of all, there's two ways to get a mortgage, essentially. You can go to a bank or you can go to a mortgage broker. So the advantage of going to a mortgage broker is that mortgage brokers deal with banks and a number of other institutions. So they can be a little bit more objective because they can get your mortgage and arrange your mortgage from anywhere.
Okay.
So that's the first thing.
Okay, so let's see. I'm looking to buy a house. I contact someone like you. What happens then?
Well, the first thing we need to do is we need to get you pre-qualified.
Okay.
Because you don't want to be running around looking for a house, spending a lot of your time, picking a house and then putting an offer to find out that you may not get the financing, or maybe you can't afford it. So the first thing people should do is they should speak with a mortgage broker to determine exactly what they can afford,
okay,
what is the right purchase price, and what monthly payments they're comfortable with going forward.
That's right. And that's kind of important, right? Because people normally do it the other way around. They go looking for a house and then they start, getting their financing.
Well, that's true. It's tempting to go looking for a house, and it's okay to look a little bit, but you don't want to get stuck spending a lot of time and then find out that you won't qualify or that you can't afford the payments.
Okay, so affordability is one very important factor, but also qualifications. Let's talk some of the things that the banks normally look for in pre-qualifying or approving someone for a purchase.
Right. Well, there's a few things that the lenders are looking for.
Okay.
So the first thing you need to have is some down payment. It's a good idea to have at least 5% down. So if you're buying a $400,000 home, you should have at least $20,000 plus a few $1,000s on top of that to allow for closing costs.
Okay.
So that's one. Two is credit.
Okay.
It's important that you have a good credit history.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about, because credit is really important, we know that, but people don't really understand what does a bank see or consider as credit history to be good credit history.
Well, they like to see at least 2 or 3 years credit history, and that you've got maybe 1 or 2 credit cards, line of credit, maybe a car loan. So they like to see a few different things. And it's an interesting thing because from time to time we meet people who say, oh, my credit's great.
Yes.
Because maybe they don't owe any money, or whatever they borrowed, they've always paid back. But some people don't have enough credit. And it's important to have credit, use it from time to time. If you can, pay it all off at the end of every month, but it's important to have credit because everything you have shows up on the credit report.
Okay.
And when you go to get a mortgage, the lender is going to want to see what is your credit score, how many trade lines do you have, how much credit do you have available, how long have you had it for. These are all the things that are taken into account.
Okay, now let's say somebody has bad credit. Does that mean that they can't ever buy anything?
No, it doesn't mean that they can't ever buy, but it's important to know why they have bad credit. Because
Oh,
if they
okay.
have financial problems right now, maybe it's not the right time to buy.
Okay.
But if they had bad credit in the past, and that is a thing of the past, it's important that they take steps to reestablish credit. For some people, their income situation might recover quicker than their credit situation.
Okay.
And sometimes people, after a bout with bad credit, due to some loss, could be health, loss of job, whatever, they want to get back into the market, and they may still have a little bit tarnished credit. There are lenders that will still work with you. It is important that people should take steps to repair their credit because they'll get a better mortgage rate
Yes.
if they can do that.
Okay, so before we proceed, let's talk about what are some of the things that people can do to improve their credit, right? Because if credit is as important and good credit is even more important,
Yes.
then what steps can people take
Sure.
in order to repair bad credit?
Right. Okay.
That's
Well,
true.
the first thing that you can do is you can get a secured credit card. So where you may not normally qualify for a credit card, you can go to, there's a variety of institutions around. Home Trust is one of the better ones,
Okay.
where you can easily get a secured credit card. You put down $1,000 or $1,500, they hold on to it, and they'll give you a credit card.
Okay.
So you can start reestablishing your credit with that.
Okay.
Okay, a car loan is another thing that people don't realize. It shows up on the credit bureau, and if you don't have wonderful credit, but you have the income, you could probably still qualify for a car loan, and that's another way to reestablish credit. So all these things show on your credit report, and if you've had a bout of bad credit, after a couple years of reestablishing, you'll be able to get a mortgage again.
Okay, so you must have a down payment, you must have good credit or some credit.
Right.
And what else is required?
Income.
Okay, let's talk about income.
Okay. So, you could be self-employed, or you could have a regular salary job.
Okay.
The lenders prefer when you have a regular salary job,
Okay.
for a couple of reasons. Well, I mean, it's possible to get a mortgage if you're self-employed, but what happens is a lot of times self-employed people, for tax purposes, their accountants are encouraging them to minimize their taxes, and who doesn't want to minimize your taxes? But when you do that, you end up showing less income than may be really reflective of your situation.
Okay.
So you may have very good cash flow, but if you have a good accountant, it may not look great.
Okay, so what do you do with something like that?
Well, in that case, it's still possible to get a mortgage.
Okay.
It's important that you file your taxes on time, because even if you're not reporting a lot of income, the lenders do want to know that your taxes are filed and are up to date, and that you don't owe the government any money. That's important for them.
Okay.
Besides that, the lenders will look at your credit, and they'll look at your down payment. So you might need to make a little bit more down payment than you would otherwise if you're self-employed to get a really good mortgage. But that's the best way to deal with that issue.
Okay, so we have now down payment, we have credit history, we have employment, anything else that the
Well,
lenders would look at
okay,
or
so-
would want to consider?
Sure. So, okay, and just one other note on the income side, if you have a regular job, usually the lenders want to see a recent pay stub
Okay.
and a job letter.
Okay.
So, and that's important to, and they'll want to know something about your job history. If you've been in the job for less than a year, they're going to want to see previous tax returns and that sort of thing. So when you go to apply for a mortgage or get pre-qualified, it's important to discuss all of these things with your mortgage broker.
Okay.
Because the lenders will look at your job history differently, whether you're on contract work or whether it's a regular job. And the mortgage broker needs to know all this, because the last thing you want to do is get an approval that's subject to your being able to provide certain documents, and then
That's
you
right.
can't provide them.
And I think this is where most of the challenges come in for realtors like us, because when people come to us and they say, oh, I already have a pre-approval, I'm done.
Right.
And so my bank tells me to just go look for a house, and I'll just go buy a property, and my bank is going to give me a mortgage.
Right.
So don't worry about it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, I've seen happen before over the years. I've had people come to me and they bought a house. They have 5 days to get financing.
Yes.
They've said, well, we were told we were pre-qualified. But if the person who pre-qualifies you, even if it's a bank, if they don't ask the right questions and they don't know the full story,
That's right.
watch out, because this person was actually, there was one example that the person was on contract. And so he had a much more difficult time proving the income to meet the bank's satisfaction than he thought he would.
Okay.
So it's important that you meet with, that people talk to people who've had experience.
Yes, because majority of the time people assume that when they go to the bank, the bank can get into their head and is doing exactly what it is that they are looking for.
Right.
So they may not know what right questions to ask for.
That's right.
And so I guess that's where all this, sometimes the trouble happens.
Right.
Anything else that the bank looks for?
Well, in terms of down payment, one thing that people don't always realize is that the lenders want to know where your down payment is coming from.
Okay, very important.
And this is something that people often overlook because they figure, well, what's the difference? I'm coming up with the money for the down payment. But the lenders do want to know that. They want to know if it's coming from your own savings, if it's borrowed, or if it's gifted.
Well, what if somebody was to gift you?
Well,
Maybe family can give you
Sure.
down payment.
Sure, but it's important to disclose that.
Okay.
We suggest, if possible, try and get the gift in advance and have it in an account with your name on it. You can even have it in an account with your name and the family member who's giving you the gift together. So that way, when it comes time to apply for a mortgage, you can say that, yes, the money is from your own resources. It's much stronger when you can show that you've saved that money rather than just gifted it, have it gifted to you.
Okay, all right. So these are some of the things that a lender is going to look into in order to approve you for the mortgage. Now, let's talk a little bit about mortgages. There are so many different types of mortgages.
Sure.
Right? And public is not aware of it. So can we talk a little bit about different types of mortgages?
Sure. Well, there's mainly two different types of mortgages. Okay. You have either a fixed rate mortgage or a variable rate mortgage.
Okay.
So with a variable rate mortgage, the rate goes up and down. It's tied to the prime rate, which is currently 3%, and you can get a discount off prime. So it's oftentimes a variable rate mortgage looks very attractive because the rate is lower. Right now, people are getting mortgages in the low twos. So,
Okay.
I mean, it certainly looks attractive. And a lot of people are going that route, but you just have to be aware that if the prime rate goes up, your payment could change. And you want to make sure that you're still going to be able to afford to make the payment if the rate goes up.
Okay, so what kind of people should be looking for a variable mortgage?
Well, I mean, anybody can get a variable rate mortgage,
Okay.
but I would say to people that if you're getting a mortgage that is pretty high for your income level, that you might want to consider getting a fixed rate mortgage so that there's no surprises later. And
So then your mortgage amount is fixed, so
Exactly.
you know
Right.
how much every month to budget for.
Exactly, right. So you can fix a rate for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. 5 years is a very common period. And now is a good time to get a fixed 5-year rate because it's still under 3%, which is pretty awesome.
It's very awesome.
And that way for 5 years, you know that your payment is going to be the same.
Okay. Now, there are people who would like to have their mortgages paid off. What are some of the things that people can do in order to be mortgage free? as soon as possible, I guess.
Sure, yeah. Who wants to carry a mortgage with them
Right.
for the rest of their lives?
You're right.
Well, most mortgages will have prepayment privileges.
Okay.
So you can pay extra if you like on a lump sum. So if you get a bonus or an inheritance or something, certain amount of money, it's often 10, 15, or maybe 20% of the entire mortgage amount that you can pay once per year without any penalty.
Okay.
So if you have the funds, it's a great idea to pay your mortgage down because you will save a lot of money
Yes.
in the long run.
Okay.
And you can also increase what you pay. So usually, again, up to 10, 15, or 20%. So if you're paying $1,000 a month and you get a raise, let's say, you could call the bank and say, oh, I want to increase my payment to $1,100 or maybe $1,200 per month. Doesn't seem like a lot of money, but it will save you a lot of interest in the long term.
Okay, so that extra $200 would go directly towards your principal.
That's right.
Okay,
That's
all right.
right.
So anything else that people can do over and above these two privileges, I guess?
Well, sure. I mean, sometimes people will have investment opportunities, and as a real estate agent, I'm sure you see cases where people, want to invest in real estate. So you can go the other way. And instead of rushing to pay your mortgage down, you can take equity out if you've done a good job paying down your mortgage. And especially in the city of Toronto, where prices keep going up,
Yes.
you may have a lot of equity in your property. And if you want to invest in real estate, which has proven to be a great investment for quite a few years here in Toronto, you can take equity out at fairly low interest rate as long as you use it for good things.
That's right. That's important.
That's key. If you're just
Not to take a
borrowing
vacation.
money to buy a Jaguar, then
That's
you
not
might
a
want
wise thing to
rethink
do.
that.
That's right. Okay. All right. Now, these privileges that we talked about, does the bank offer these automatically, or do you have to ask for them?
Well, you should be aware. Most of the lenders do offer prepayment. I have seen cases where, where some mortgage brokers will advertise that they have this low rate, and like a no frills sort of a mortgage, and you have to be careful that it may not have certain privileges. So you need to know what those that the privileges exist and what they are. They're usually between 10 and 25%, depending on the lender.
Okay.
Which is substantial. I mean, if you have a $200,000 mortgage and a 10% prepayment privilege, that means you can pay up to $20,000 every year to pay the mortgage down. You can pay it down pretty fast. It's important that the privileges is there, and that's something that's important to ask.
Yeah, because this is what I always tell my clients. It's not just to have a good rate, which is important,
Right.
yeah, but how the covenant is drafted,
That's
right?
right.
And that's why I guess people like you are so important, because then you would take the time to explain all of these things to the clients, right?
Right.
So that when that document is drafted, then everything is according to what it is that they would really want to see in
Exactly.
a mortgage.
Exactly. People need to be educated when they're
It's
buying
really
a house
important.
or
Yeah.
arranging a mortgage. They need to deal
Yeah.
with an experienced person who has a good reputation so that they know what they're getting into.
Absolutely. Now, if there's somebody watching this program and they want to get additional information on their existing mortgage, or perhaps they want to get a brand new mortgage, where can they reach you?
Well, they can call me direct anytime at 416-876-2031.
Thank you for being here, David.
Thanks so much, Molly. It was a pleasure.
It's that time of year again, as RE/MAX takes you through the highs, the lows, and what we can look forward to in Canada's 2015 housing market. Although the majority of the Canadian housing market cooled in 2014, the greater areas of Vancouver and Toronto continue to see the inventory of houses remain at a record low, while demand still climbed. RE/MAX anticipates that prices in these markets will grow in 2015, with average prices increasing approximately 3% in Vancouver and approximately 4% in Toronto. Because of the growth in these two markets, condominiums are increasingly a viable option for younger buyers who want to get into the market. In Alberta, the average residential sale price increased by 6% in both Calgary and Edmonton compared to 2013. In the new year, however, both cities can anticipate price increases as demand in Calgary stabilizes and Edmonton grows with an estimated $5.2 billion in private construction projects. Both Saskatoon and Regina continue to be favorable to buyers in 2014 as prices remain flat despite high inventory levels. With the support of a growing, well-diversified economy and job creation, both areas are expected to become more balanced in 2015. In 2014, Winnipeg leveled off to become a more balanced market, but trends indicate that if inventory continues to grow in 2015, the city could potentially favor the buyer, but with minimal change to prices. The nation's capital saw lots of activity toward the end of 2014 as buyers who sat on the sidelines in the spring and summer have reinvigorated the market with their return this fall, which could lead to an average price increase of approximately 2% in 2015. While in Atlantic Canada and Quebec, 2014 house prices have generally remained flat, with little change expected in 2015. Across the country, buyers are becoming more sophisticated at a time when they have more choice and negotiating power. Successful sellers have to be equally prepared and informed when pricing and marketing their homes. For more information on house prices in your region, check out the RE/MAX 2015 Housing Market Outlook Report on remax.ca.
The real estate market continues to perform exceptionally well. It's been a great year, and we expect it to continue to be this great in the new year as well. But what is it that is causing it to perform so well? Let's talk to our expert, Jay Banerjee. Welcome to the show again, Jay.
Good to be here.
All right, so the real estate market is doing really, really well.
Well, here's the headlines. This is right out of the horse's mouth from the president of the Toronto Real Estate Board, Mr. Paul Etherington. And I quote, October 2014 sales and average prices up year over year.
All right. So what do you attribute that to?
Very simple. Supply, demand. The demand has increased. The supply is down.
All right, now, what do you say to people who have been forecasting for a very long time that there is going to be a crash or there's going to be a soft landing, but none of that has happened, right? Contrary to what we, the realtors, have been telling, that no, the market is robust and there are good principles, economic principles that are at play here, and we don't anticipate that happening. So what do you tell someone like that?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head. You mentioned the key word, the economic, it's really the economic indicators or the economic status of Canada. And I don't blame people that have been predicting this because, you know, what goes up comes down. There have been cycles for goodness knows how long. So I understand where they're coming from. However, in Toronto, it's been different, and here's why. There are true economic conditions that exist, which is in downtown.
Are unique to Toronto.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
For example, the immigrants.
That's one.
That's
It's not the only factor,
Yes.
but it's definitely one factor.
Yes, because they come from all over the world. I guess who doesn't want to be in Canada?
Yes.
And then once you come in Canada, who doesn't want to be in Toronto?
Yes.
Right? And one of the big dreams that people come with is the dream of owning your own home.
Yes.
Right? Even though people don't know how they're going to go about doing it, but they still have that dream. Yes, I remember when we got married, right? We wanted to buy a home.
Yes, we did.
How that was going to happen, we had no clue.
Yes.
Right? But we
I remember
knew.
that, Molly, for sure.
Yes, we knew that that was going to happen sometime.
That's a key economic driving force. And the other one is the economics. There are also economic migrants moving into the city. Because where else can you earn that kind of income? And then what's happening is in downtown, a home is almost $900 to $1 million. So then this is driving up the condo market because there is the The volume of construction of commercial real estate is increasing at a faster rate than the volume of construction of residential condos.
Okay.
So where are they going to live and work? Because it's taking 72 minutes, an hour and a half, just to commute from, say, Scarborough, where we are, to downtown and back. So therefore, it causes for all kinds of factors.
That's right. So a lot of people are just then choosing to buy properties downtown Toronto.
Yes.
Okay, so now because of this predictions of either the market crashing or the market going up, there are all kinds of fears
Yes.
in the public,
Yes.
right? So consumer.
Yes.
For example, if there is someone who wants to buy, then
Yes.
they are almost, some of them are petrified that they really can't afford, and so they are hoping against hope, I guess, to see that these predictions come true and that the market comes down, and then that would be the time for them to buy, and that hasn't happened.
It's a long wait.
Yes, and some
It's a
of them,
long wait.
some of them have lost, great opportunities, right? Because they've been waiting year after year after year, and here we are. So, what do you want to say to someone like that who probably is now a lot more realistic?
Well, here's what I want to share with you. Today, I received some of the stats. This is the historic stats from the Toronto MLS sales and average prices dating back as much as 1968 to today. So can I share that with the public?
Please do.
In 1968, an average home price in Toronto was $26,732.
Oh my God, you can't even buy a car
No.
for that money. Okay.
That's right. Now let's bring it fast forward to 1990. 1990, almost 32 years later, now we're talking from 26,000 is 255,000
Okay.
for an average price home. Then let's go to the year 2000, 243. But here's the big jump. Since the year 2000 to the year 2032, from 243,000, we're sitting at 522,000.
That's $500,000.
Yes. That's right here, the historic stats for Toronto.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So, for all those investors,
Yeah.
this is a much better option, isn't it?
Well, you have three options. You can put your money into a stock or mutual fund. You can go into any bank or take your money, or institution. Number two, you could potentially buy gold. I'm not sure what the numbers are, but they're there. The third option is to invest in real estate.
Yes.
And here's why. Even if you leave aside the increase, because that does come under speculation, here's what's happening. When you buy a condo, let's say, for example, I'm getting a condo sale coming up in a couple of weeks downtown. Call me about that. When you're buying a condo, say for $350, you're putting in 20% down, there is a small, not big, small cash flow. So you are cash flow positive. Number two, people forget, they're paying the mortgage down about $500-600 a month. So here's what happens. Somebody that buys a condo as an investor in a 5-year span, well, they're putting in $70,000, 20%. 5 years later, they've earned $40,000 on that condo with $70,000. And this is without speculation, because you've got a cash flow of $150 a month, maybe that's about, it comes to about $9,000 a year. So all put together, where do you get a 12 to 15% or more ROI, which is return on investment on your money, then there.
And safe.
And safe. And don't take my word for this. Go to CMHC or any site of the government that shows rental vacancies. is virtually 0%, 2 to 3% is the vacancy rate for a condo downtown Toronto.
Okay, so in addition to that,
Yes.
the property values have gone up.
They have.
So people who did buy
Yes.
or are thinking of buying have actually done very well for themselves.
Many people who bought from ourselves, 20 years back, 10 years back, who have not taken money out, today can retire.
All right. So what would you like to tell someone who is contemplating making a real estate investment?
The word is now. Call me now, because if you call me now, there is still not too late. Because here's the good news. It's under 3%, Molly, for a 5-year fixed mortgage. 2.5 for a 5-year variable mortgage. You cannot go wrong, because remember, when the prices were $250,000, I was in the market. At $250,000, the mortgage rates was 12, 13, 16%. So the payments
Well, virtually the
were
same.
virtually the same.
All right. So if you are an investor or contemplating making
Yes.
an investment, it is not too late.
Yes.
So if you would like to get any additional information, you can, with confidence, contact Jay at
647-273-1119.
That's all for this week, and we want to wish you all a very happy new year from all of us here at Chai with Molly. And before I go, I want to remind you once again that to be good and kind to a stranger is a good thing.